Alright, settle down everybody, settle down. Today we're diving into a topic that's spicier than a plate of Mama Africa's pepper soup. African husbands, but not just any African husbands, oh no. We're talking about the epic showdown between African husbands back home and those who have crossed the ocean, breathed that diaspora air, and returned different. You know what I'm talking about. Back home it's my queen, respect your husband, but over here it's all therapy speak and emotional labor. It's enough to make your head spin faster than a djembe drum solo. So is it a culture clash? A love match made in, well, somewhere between Lagos and London? Let's unpack these people. Okay, let's be real. In many African cultures, marriage is seen as a partnership, a beautiful sacred union where the husband is low-key the CEO. You know how it is. Back home, a man might sooner wrestle a lion than touch a broom. That's women's work, my friend. But then they land in the diaspora, and suddenly they're on Google searching how to fold fitted sheets. They're discovering this magical place called the kitchen. And it's not just for criticizing salt in the egusi soup. It's a whole new world, folks. Back in the motherland, quality time with your African husband might involve him recounting his day in detail while you nod and serve him dinner. It's a classic. But in diaspora, oh, things get a little more interactive. Suddenly your strong, silent African husband is sending you texts like, babe, can we schedule a date night? I booked a babysitter and everything. It's enough to make you wonder if you accidentally married a Canadian. And don't even get me started on the language barrier. I'm not talking about English versus Zuba people. I'm talking about the language of emotions. Back home, it's all about respect, deference. You know, yes, but in the diaspora, it's all, let's unpack our feelings and I hear your perspective. It's enough to give a good African wife whiplash. 1 minute, it's don't question your husband. The next, it's let's have a healthy dialogue about our emotional needs. But here's the thing, folks, as confusing as it can be, this whole diaspora husband transformation, it's kinda endearing. Yeah, I said it. There's something kinda sweet about seeing your tough traditional African husband trying to navigate the world of feelings and active listening. It's like watching a baby giraffe try to find its feet. It's messy, it's hilarious, but it's also so kinda beautiful. Alright folks, buckle up, because we're about to enter the dome of parenting styles. African dads versus diaspora dads. Now, I'm not saying all African dads are the same, but let's just say back home, discipline is a full contact sport. You got kids acting up. Boom! Instant lecture on respecting your elders, sprinkled with threats of a beating so epic, it'll make your ancestors shiver. Meanwhile, in the diaspora, we got dads reading parenting books like they're sacred texts. Time outs, time ins. Gentle parenting. They're fluent in the language of emotional regulation. But don't let that fool you, folks. Underneath that calm exterior, they're probably Googling how to discipline your kid without getting cancelled on Twitter. It's a jungle out there, people. But hey, I get it. Diaspora dads are walking a tightrope. On one hand, they want to raise well-adjusted kids who can express their feelings. On the other hand, they also grew up with those legendary African dad stares. You know the ones where one look could turn you into a pillar of salt. So yeah, they're trying to find that balance between discipline and dialogue. It's a work in progress, folks. Alright folks, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the auntie in the living room. See, in many African cultures, marriage isn't just between two people. It's a community affair. Your business is everyone's business, and everyone, especially auntie, has an opinion on how you should live your life. You having a fight with your spouse, auntie's got advice, your husband didn't greet her with enough enthusiasm, auntie's adding it to your list of marital offenses. And don't even get me started on the baby pressure. When are you giving me grandbabies? Auntie asks, as if you haven't considered the economic and emotional implications of raising a child in this day and age. Now, diaspora husbands, they're looking at this whole situation like it's a foreign film with no subtitles. They're used to privacy, to setting boundaries, to politely telling auntie to mind her own beeswax. But in the world of African marriage, those boundaries are about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. Now, here's where things get really interesting. While African husbands are dealing with auntie's unsolicited advice, diaspora husbands are navigating the minefield of social media. Got a relationship problem? Don't talk to your partner. Post about it on Reddit. Suddenly, your marriage is being analyzed by strangers who have never even met you. YTA, you should have known her love language is gifts. NTA, she's being manipulative by giving you the silent treatment. It's like a digital therapy session, except everyone is judging you and offering unsolicited advice. And the worst part, sometimes these diaspora husbands actually take this advice to heart. They're reading relationship advice from people who think communication is just another word for texting memes back and forth. It's enough to make your head spin, folks. So, who's got it tougher? The African husband dealing with auntie's constant commentary, or the dia husband crowdsourcing relationship advice from strangers on the internet? Honestly, it's a toss-up. On one hand, auntie's advice might be outdated and intrusive, but at least it comes from a place of love, or at least a very strong desire to see you settle down and producing grandchildren. Social media, on the other hand, is a wild west of opinions, where anyone with the keyboard can claim to be an expert on love and marriage. But hey, maybe that's the beauty of it all. Whether you're getting grilled by auntie or roasted on Reddit, the important thing is that you're communicating, you're learning, and you're figuring out this whole marriage thing together. And if all else fails, there's all couples therapy. So, there you have it, folks. Epic showdown between African husbands and diaspora husbands. Who wins? Who loses? Honestly, it's not about winning or losing. It's about recognizing that love, just like jollof rice, can be made in a million different ways. Whether your husband is the strong, silent type or the emotionally expressive one, whether he's still trying to figure out how to use a washing machine or he's a master chef in the kitchen, the important thing is that you're both committed to making the marriage work. It's about respect, compromise, and a whole lot of laughter, because let's face it, marriage is a wild ride no matter where you're from. So to all the husbands out there, African or diaspora, I salute you. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep loving those wives of yours. And to the wives, thank you for your patience, your understanding, and your ability to laugh at your husband's questionable cooking skills. You're the real MVPs. Now, drop a comment below and let me know. Team traditional or team diaspora? And if your hubby's watching, tag him and tell him to get up and do the dishes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more hilarious takes of culture and everything in between. See you in my next video. Alright, settle down everybody, settle down. Today we're diving into a topic that's spicier than a plate of Mama Africa's pepper soup. African husbands, but not just any African husbands, oh no. We're talking about the epic showdown between African husbands back home and those who have crossed the ocean, breathed that diaspora air and returned different. You know what I'm talking about. Back home it's all my queen, respect your husband, but over here it's all therapy speak and emotional labor. It's enough to make your head spin faster than a djembe drum solo. So, is it a culture clash? A love match made in, well, somewhere between Lagos and London? Let's unpack these people. Okay, let's be real. In many African cultures, marriage is seen as a partnership, a beautiful sacred union, where the husband is low-key the CEO. You know how it is. Back home, a man might sooner wrestle a lion than touch a broom. That's women's work, my friend. But then, they land in the diaspora, and suddenly, they're on Google searching how to fold fitted sheets. They're discovering this magical place called the kitchen, and it's not just for criticizing the salt in the FC soup. It's a whole new world, folks. Back in the motherland, quality time with your African husband might involve him recounting his day in detail while you nod and serve him dinner. It's a classic, but in the diaspora, oh, things get a little more interactive. Suddenly your strong, silent African husband is sending you texts like, babe, can we schedule a date night? I booked a babysitter and everything. It's enough to make you wonder if you accidentally married a Canadian. And don't even get me started on the language barrier. I'm not talking about English versus Yoruba people. I'm talking about the language of emotions. Back home, it's all about respect, deference. You know, yes dear, but in the diaspora, it's all, let's unpack our feelings and I hear your perspective. It's enough to give a good African wife whiplash. 1 minute it's don't question your husband. The next it's let's have a healthy dialogue about our emotional needs. But here's the thing, folks, as confusing as it can be, this whole diaspora husband transformation, it's kinda endearing. Yeah, I said it. There's something kinda sweet about seeing your tough traditional African husband trying to navigate the world of feelings and active listening. It's like watching a baby giraffe try to find its feet. It's messy, it's hilarious, but it's also kinda beautiful. Alright, folks, buckle up, because we're about to enter the thunderdome of parenting styles. African dads versus diaspora dads. Now, I'm not saying all African dads are the same, but let's just say back home, discipline is a full contact sport. You got kids acting up, boom! Instant lecture on respecting your elders, sprinkled with threats of a beating so epic, it'll make your ancestors shiver. Meanwhile, in the diaspora, we got dads reading parenting books like they're sacred texts, time outs, time ins, gentle parenting. They're fluent in the language of emotional regulation, but don't let that fool you, folks. Underneath that calm exterior, they're probably Googling how to discipline your kid without getting cancelled on Twitter. It's a jungle out there, people. But hey, I get it. Diaspora dads are walking a tightrope. On one hand, they want to raise well-adjusted kids who can express their feelings. On the other hand, they also grew up with those legendary African dad stares. You know the ones where one look could turn you into a pillar of salt. So yeah, they're trying to find that balance between discipline and dialogue. It's a work in progress, folks. Alright, folks, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the auntie in the living room. See, in many African cultures, marriage isn't just between two people, it's a community affair. Your business is everyone's business, and everyone, especially auntie, has an opinion on how you should live your life. You having a fight with your spouse, auntie's got advice, your husband didn't greet her with enough enthusiasm, auntie's adding it to your list of marital offenses. And don't even get me started on the baby pressure. When giving me grandbabies, auntie asks, as if you haven't considered the economic and emotional implications of raising a child in this day and age. Now, diaspora husbands, they're looking at this whole situation like it's a foreign film with no subtitles. They're used to privacy, to set boundaries, to politely telling auntie to mind her own beeswax. But in the world of African marriage, those boundaries are about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. Now, here's where things get really interesting. While African husbands are dealing with auntie's unsolicited advice, diaspora husbands are navigating the minefield of social media. Got a relationship problem? Don't talk to your partner. Post about it on Reddit. Suddenly, your marriage is being analyzed by strangers who have never even met you. YTA, you should know her love language is gifts. NTA, she's being manipulated by giving you the silent treatment. It's like a digital therapy session, except everyone's judging you and offering unsolicited advice. And the worst part, sometimes these diaspora husbands actually take this advice to heart. They're reading relationship advice from people who think communication is just another word for texting memes back and forth. It's enough to make your head spin, folks. So, who's got it tougher? The African husband dealing with his constant commentary, or the diaspora husband crowdsourcing relationship advice from strangers on the internet? Honestly, it's a toss-up. On one hand, auntie's advice might be outdated and intrusive, but at least it comes from a place of love, or at least a very strong desire to see you settle down and producing grandchildren. Social media, on the other hand, is a wild west of opinions, where anyone with a keyboard can claim to be an expert on love and marriage. But hey, maybe that's the beauty of it all. Whether you're getting grilled by auntie or roasted on Reddit, the important thing is that you're communicating, you're learning, and you're figuring out this whole marriage thing together. And if all fails, there's always couples therapy. So, there you have it, folks. The epic showdown between African husbands and diaspora husbands. Who wins? Who loses? Honestly, it's not about winning or losing. It's about recognizing that love, just like jollof rice, can be made in a million different ways. Whether your husband is the strong, silent type or the emotionally expressive one, whether he's still trying to figure out how to use a washing machine or he's the master chef in the kitchen, the important thing is that you're both committed to making the marriage work. It's about respect, compromise, and a whole lot of laughter. Because let's face it, marriage is a wild ride, no matter where you're from. So, to all the husbands out there, African or diaspora, I salute you. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep loving those wives of yours. And to the wives, thank you for your patience, your understanding, and your ability to laugh at your husband's questionable cooking skills. You're the real MVPs. Now, drop a comment below and let me know. Team traditional or team diaspora? And if your husband is watching, tag him and tell him to get up and do the dishes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more hilarious takes on love, culture, and everything in between. See you in my next video. Alright, settle down everybody, settle down. Today we're diving into a topic that's spicier than a plate of Africa's pepper soup. African husbands. But not just any African husbands, oh no. We're talking about the epic showdown between African husbands back home and those who have crossed the ocean, breathed that diaspora air and returned different. You know what I'm talking about. Back home it's all my queen, respect your husband, but over here it's all therapy speak and emotional labor. It's to make your head spin faster than a djembe drum solo. So is it a culture clash? A love match made in, well, somewhere between Lagos and London? Let's unpack these people. Okay, let's be real. In many African cultures, marriage is seen as a partnership, a beautiful sacred union, where the husband is low-key the CEO. You know how it is. Back home, a man might sooner wrestle a lion than touch a broom. That's women's work, my friend. But then they land in the diaspora, and suddenly they're on Google, search how to fold fitted sheets. They're discovering this magical place called the kitchen, and it's not just for criticizing the salt in the egusi soup. It's a whole new world, folks. In the motherland, quality time with your African husband might involve him recounting his day in detail while you nod and serve him dinner. It's a classic. But in the diaspora, oh, things get a little more interactive. Suddenly your strong, silent African husband is sending you texts like, babe, can we schedule a date night? I booked a babysitter and everything. It's enough to make you wonder if you accidentally married a Canadian. And don't even get me started on the language barrier. I'm not talking about English versus Yoruba people. I'm talking about the language of emotions. Back home, it's all about respect, deference. You know, yes dear, but in the diaspora, it's all, let's unpack our feelings and I hear your perspective. It's enough to give a good African wife whiplash. 1 minute it's don't question your husband. The next it's let's have a healthy dialogue about our emotional needs. But here's the thing, folks. As confusing as it can be, this whole diaspora husband transformation, it's kinda endearing. Yeah, I said it. There's something kinda sweet about seeing your tough traditional African husband trying to navigate the world of feelings and active listening. It's like watching a baby giraffe try to find its feet. It's messy, it's hilarious, but it's also kind of beautiful. Alright folks, buckle up, because we're about to enter the thunderdome of parenting styles. African dads versus diaspora dads. Now, I'm not saying all African dads are the same, but let's just say back home, discipline is a full contact sport. You got kids acting up, boom, instant lecture on respecting your elders, sprinkled with threats of a beating so epic it'll make your ancestors shiver. Meanwhile, in the diaspora we got reading parenting books like their sacred texts, time-outs, time-ins, gentle parenting. They're fluent in the language of emotional regulation, but don't let that fool you, folks. Underneath that calm exterior, they're probably Googling how to discipline your kid without getting cancelled on Twitter. It's a jungle out there, people. But hey, I get it. Diaspora dads are walking a tightrope. On one hand, they want to raise well-adjusted kids who can express their feelings. On the other hand, they also grew up with those legendary African dad stares. You know the ones where one look could turn into a pillar of salt. So yeah, they're trying to find that balance between discipline and dialogue. It's a work in progress, folks. Alright folks, let's talk about